I'm so happy to be here with Mariana Henninger, and she is a pre-launch plan program student who it's a great day to talk to her because she's actually in the middle of her launch, which we're going to talk, or actually on cart close day. So first of all, thank you, Mariana, for being here and for taking time out of this crazy cart close day to talk about your experience and tell everyone a little bit about you and about your program.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're talking today just says so much about your program, Brenna, like right off the bat. Like who would have a conversation that is not related to cart close, or extremely urgent on cart close? And it can only happen when you have done a pre-launch that has set you up for success during your launch. And I totally forgot your question. Can you Sorry.
I want you to tell everyone about you because I love
Oh,
like the
yeah.
premise of what you do and what your program is.
Of course. Thank you. And yeah, so I founded brandmagnetic.com. My background is in documentary filmmaking. I have an Emmy Award and 2 nominations. And really, I founded everything around brand videos, which is like the heart and soul of my company, because I'm obsessed with beautiful, emotional, personal storytelling that's intimate. But I'm also equally obsessed with marketing and sales. And so a brand video is essentially the combination of that. It's a single video, a 2 to 4 minute video that helps you build a personal and emotional connection with your audience, with cold audiences right from the get-go. So you're not like lost in the shuffle of emails or lead magnets or ads or content everywhere. You become that person that they know by name, whose values they align with, and that you can build trust faster with, so that you can convert faster also.
Yeah, I love it. I was watching one of your brand videos. I don't remember the person's name recently on your Instagram, and it like stop and go find Mariana on Instagram and go watch this brand video because it will really demonstrate what she's talking about, which is it's this story that I was like, I want to know what happens. And I felt, and it's not even a situation that I personally have dealt with, but I was so intrigued by
Yeah.
the video. And I
Mhm.
actually sat there and watched the whole thing because I found it so interesting. And I think that's really the point of, I think what you do to it is that we have so much coming at us, so much content. And this is really not about creating more content. It's just like getting
Mhm.
people really zeroed in so that they spend in this world where we're looking at 7-second videos all the time, where if you can get someone to invest those 2 to 4 minutes with
Yeah.
you, what a true investment is in your brand.
Yeah, it's a game changer. Thank you so much for saying that. In fact, like one of the students that has just enrolled into my program, that was one of the things that she said. She said, I was watching your brand videos and I wasn't their ICA. I didn't really need their services, had no idea who they were before watching that video. And I found myself rooting for them. These were her words. And I think this is the true essence of a great brand video, and in everything, in a way, everything that you teach in pre-launch also, which is about treating your people like humans, understanding really deeply what their desires are, what their pain points are, and giving them time. This is the thing that I most love about your program. I think this concept of giving people time to make a decision, not just, slamming them with a barrage of emails during your launch and like pressuring them to like make a decision based on urgency and scarcity, and all the other tactics that everyone talks about. You're like, this is such a better way to have a relationship with people who are interested in your program before they have to make a decision. And that's just, we can count that as like one of the number one things I loved about your program, but there's so many more.
Yeah, no, and I know you and I both, and we kind of bonded over it even before the program, which is this
Yeah.
idea of that there is, in your words, a trust crisis going on. And I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. And I hear it echoed from other marketing experts, which is just like people just are scared to invest. They're scared they're going
Yeah.
to get burned. And what your video does and what a pre-launch does, right? When you, it's the perfect match. Where it's really is, can we get people to invest in understand who we are, our values,
Yeah.
our viewpoints, and that's how people are making decisions right now. So I really love that. And I think that kind of is a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about, which is How did you trust me in the pre-launch plan program before you decided to join? Like, what made you
Yeah.
be like, yes, this is something I want to do?
Well, Brenna, it's such a funny story. I mentioned over and over that, oh, how I wish that I knew that Voxer wasn't going to save our messages. This was before I signed up for the pro plan, because we had so many messages before I invested in your program. And the reason was I had just kind of come to know you a little bit, right? I had you on my podcast because your name had been floating around so much. I was like, oh, this is so interesting. My podcast, Empire Secrets, I focus on like ninja tactics that nobody's talking about, like ninja strategies for digital marketing. And so I had you on. I was very intrigued about your program, but that was the extent of which I known you. And I had just come off of a really troubling investment, a really big one that I had made in a different program where, just to to simplify it, I was burned really badly, and it made me like look at marketing so much differently. Like I was having sort of an existential crisis, not in the disbelief of what I was doing. In fact, like it made me so much more empowered in what I was doing, but it made me see every other offer out there so differently. And you kind of bore the brunt of that burn in a way, because yours was the very next program I was even willing to consider, after that big investment had really not paid off. And so when I came to you with all sorts of skepticism and all sorts of doubt and all sorts of many, many, many questions. And that was, luckily for me, you were in pre-launch, or you hadn't even opened pre-launch yet, I don't think. But so luckily for me, I had the luxury of your generosity and time, to ask you all of the questions and to really assess whether, honestly, what I was trying to figure out, Brenna, was, are you going to be there for me? And I know that sounds like really like emotional and borderline cheesy, but that was my concern. Like I wanted to invest in you and your expertise, but in a way in your care. And I know that we can look at business in a way that, if we're talking bigger businesses that scale, like this personal attention is not a scalable thing. We know that, but I think there's also ways to scale in which, I'm in Amy Porterfield's program, and I don't talk to Amy Porterfield within that program, and yet I feel her care through her people. And I think that is based on her values. And so this is what I needed, right? I needed that personal attention, whether it was from Brenna or from Brenna's, head coach or whatever. In this case, I was lucky enough, and everyone joining now is still lucky enough to have you as the person in the program. And so we had such an intense back and forth. I can't even imagine probably what you thought every time your phone was like from the Voxer messages.
I love it too. I love it to a degree. No, I'm just kidding. Like I do love it. And I love it because you make me think, right? Like you made me go evaluate my own and also wonder, okay, and this is what we talk about, and this is why I love doing pre-launch, because what are our people thinking? Like if Mariana's thinking this, there's someone else out in the audience thinking it, right?
Yeah.
If she has this question, other people have this question. If she has this concern or hesitancy, other people have this concern or hesitancy. So I invite the feedback and the conversations, because this is what we do, and this is why I actually said this in an email this week. Like I want you to have time to make a decision. I don't
Yeah.
want you rushing and being like, oh my gosh, Carter's closing. Like, and this is not a small investment. Actually, the investment is going up. It's, the pre-launch plan
Yeah.
program is now going to be between $4,000 and $6,000. And that's not money that someone just throws down on a whim. That's someone who carefully considers their decisions. And so I think to have those conversations is one of the beautiful gifts that you get in pre-launch.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I'm hoping that every single student that does join has the same heart of like looking at it that way. And I think they would, and in a way, like, again, people buy from people whose values they align with. And I think if somebody's searching you out for your program, more than likely their values align in that they want to give that care and attention to everyone who's interested in their program. Like who wouldn't, right?
Exactly.
Who's gonna look at an interested customer, an interested prospect who's asking questions about your program and be like, oh, just buy already. Like if you're probably not interested in doing a pre-launch. You're just like, you just want to hear the ka-ching during launch. But so yeah, I think that was really incredible, and just essentially like getting to live through your pre-launch without even interacting with your emails. To be honest, like I got your emails. They were gentle reminders that you were about to open cart, but and the timeline was obviously interesting and important also. You're not in pre-launch all the time, and then and then all of a sudden it's launch. There's a certain window to the pre-launch, and then there's a certain window to the launch. I think it was a combination of having had those conversations with, the incentives. There were a few incentives to buying before cart open, which I wanted to grab. I kind of knew from the get-go that I wanted the VIP ticket. I wanted the benefits that brought in terms of access and care and attention. And I think that was really, really important. I mean, I have certain things that I'm happy to share in terms of like where I was in business, and the sort of pivots that I needed to make in my messaging that were really critical, incredible takeaways from working with you that I didn't even expect, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, let's talk about
you
that,
don't
because
teach that. Yeah.
once you got over the hesitancy, you
Yeah.
decided, yes,
Once I
I'm gonna,
joined.
yeah, once you joined, like what was some of those things, and where were you at, and how did you feel about the container that you were in?
Oh yeah. Well, the thing for me was coming into the program, I had just had a launch where I had wonderful students that came in. It was sort of the prototype of the launch that I'm in now. And I love them to death. Don't get me wrong, but they were all very beginners in business. And I have specific programs that are great for beginners. I don't teach business coaching. I teach, messaging, brand story, brand video. And they were, again, great to work with, but I found myself having to coach them in business so much, because you can't have a brand video that converts without clarity in place of exactly who you serve, how you serve them, what they're paying about, like all of the things that you need to have in pre-launch also. And so I came into the program really desiring, or not just desiring, really needing at that point to pivot my messaging so I would speak to an audience that's further along in business. And I don't know that I necessarily knew how to do that. I had, some direction from a few coaches that I've followed, or a few mentors, but I didn't have the exact path. And so that was an incredible discovery that I made in your program that I hadn't expected to make. I had expected to, the thing that drew me to your program was this idea of a less stressful launch, or a stress-free launch. And I'm like, okay, sign me up. Because everyone who talks about launching has the word stress is in that sentence very close to the word launch. And so although I had only done very soft launches up to this point, to that point, I knew that I didn't want the stress that everyone talked about. And so for that reason, that was what drew me in. But in that, once I was inside, I kind of presented you with this, like, oh my gosh, Brenna, like, look, I had just had this very soft launch. I'd attracted a lot of beginner students who were wonderful. Again, I love my students to death, but I knew I needed to have a shift in my messaging. And so, such a blessing for me. Your program worked perfectly for me to prepare my pre-launch for that different audience. And I'm in this launch now. Every single person who's joined is definitely further along in business. It's definitely the person who's ready for a brand video.
No, I love that. And I think that's one of the, I was on a podcast interview or a summit interview today, and they were saying, what are some of the unexpected benefits of doing a pre-launch? And I
Yeah.
think, and I think this is one of the unexpected benefits of going through the pre-launch plan program, is that you get so much clarity around your messaging and
Yeah.
how you talk to someone, so that you can call in those better fit students that really get the results. So I love that. Anything else that you think like that was a win while you were inside the program that you really liked?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the main, you could talk about the sort of main wins that you advertised, which were wins for me in the sense that I walked away with two really amazing things. One is knowing exactly how to do a pre-launch, right? Knowing step by step, content by content, week by week, what I should say, how I should say it, how to structure it, all of that that you teach in the program. The second one is this amazing, I don't even know, like to me, such a powerful result, which is being open to or having the ability to receive students before you even launch, right? And I think that you don't advertise this as much, or maybe I'm wrong about that. I think you posted recently where you're like, it's not just about selling before the launch, but I think to me, in a way, like to reduce the stress of the launch, what better way than to come, open your doors and be able to say, 20% of the spots are gone, which was what I was able to say in this launch now. I was able
Yay.
to say like 20% of the spots are gone. And that's because I was able to have those conversations with folks who are interested when I was dropping those seeds, which is what the pre-launch is all about. I will say another thing, which might be kind of more particular to me, was that going through your process in PPP, I had a lot of validation. It's a very similar process to what I teach to create a brand video. There were so many similarities. Obviously, like you were coming at it sometimes from a different angle, you had sort of a different explanation, but the foundational pieces of pre-launch, like the first couple modules, or I would say probably the first one or two modules, were very similar in their foundation to what I teach also. And I was able to, glean a couple ideas and have I think it's just like when you see your ideas like crystallized in somebody else's words, it just makes you feel good. You're like, okay, we're sort of coming from we're cut from the same cloth, and we're, looking at this in a way that makes sense from a digital marketing perspective.
Right. I think too, knowing that you're on the right path and that you are, when you see it happening. And sometimes the hardest thing, I say it all the time, is sometimes the hardest thing to do is the thing that we do for others. Sometimes is having them
Yeah.
reflect back to us. And so I know sometimes the hesitancy that I will get in the program, and they're like, people are like, wait, like I kind of do this for myself, or I do something similar. And like I totally get it, but there's something different about having that same reflection
Hmm.
back to you. And I know we spent a lot of time on Voxer. So for maybe, so there's two, for anyone who's listening to this, you have two, at least right now, there's two options where you can go into the regular program, or you can go into the VIP part of the program, PPP plus, and you also get Voxer access. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for someone who's not familiar with it, who's never done like Voxer coaching?
Oh yeah. It's such a good idea that I borrowed that idea for my own program. The concept of being able to reach you, the expert, at any point in time, like when I'm in the middle of working on something, as soon as the question arises, I'm not having to, deposit that question somewhere. I'm not having to wait until the call. I'm just like, literally, it's on Brenna's Voxer immediately. I never expected you to respond so quickly. And I don't want to put it out there. I think nobody should expect an immediate response, but you were quite responsible. You were very quick to respond. And that satisfaction of knowing the answer and being able to like send you a follow-up and being able to develop ideas with you was incredible. It was an invaluable. It really was. It was that personalized touch. I think you get to a certain point in business where I think we all start out where like the courses are okay. Like, and if we actually open them and actually do them, we'll start to get some results. And then you get to a certain point in business where you just need results faster. You just need to move faster. You want guidance that's personalized to you. And that's exactly what Voxer brought to us, in that I was able to, again, just like get questions answered, figure things out. I had a little bit of a tricky situation that I think it's a little bit particular to me, where uh, I was having difficulty starting my ICA calls with an exact pain point. In a way, like I had to rediscover in my market research what was the exact pain point for the folks that were further along in business that the brand video would be perfect for, right? Because there's so many different pain points that the brand video can fix. It's kind of,
Right.
it's picking the hunger that's going to make people eat that hot dog even faster. And so, not that a brand video is hot dog, it's way better than a hot dog, but that the story that we talk about, the hot dog stand in front of the hungry crowd. So anyway, you were able to just help me figure that out. That was kind of a tough nut to crack. And not only did you do that through Voxer, like, I think, Brenna, if I were to speak about, to me, the biggest value in the program, it was you. It was the care and attention that you brought to every single one, Voxer access or not. But obviously, Voxer just made things faster and even more, white glove for me and for those who had it. But you left no question unanswered. You stayed until everyone had their questions answered in every single session. And I think that's so valuable. Like the amount of love and attention that you poured into everyone in the program, it can't be beat. And I think that it just shows your values and how much you believe in your program, but also how much you're willing to go above and beyond to make sure that everyone is successful, and it's not no student left behind.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of my values. And it's why I keep the program set up the way it is, because I think there's so much value in having conversations, in meeting with a group of people. I think, and what I love about the VIP is that you get a little bit of both. You get the group
Yeah.
feedback, and you get we have the conversation as a facilitator and helping create your pre-launch. But it's not just creating your pre-launch, it really helps inform everything that you do in your business when you go through this process, because we're getting so crystal clear on your offer and where people are starting and where we should push them to. And yeah, I really also, like you said, I loved your unique situation. And I think this is something interesting. It's finding that right angle that's for the right person, so that we
Mm,
can market around it. And I think that was the fun, and probably fun and frustrating part, right? So when you're trying to figure this out, sometimes it just like, sometimes it just lands on your lap, and sometimes we have to work on it. And I love when we have those challenges of like, how can we figure this out, and how can we make sure all of the content that we're putting out is really speaking to that person who's
yeah.
going to be great inside the program.
Yeah, no, that and so many more things that I learned inside PPP for sure.
Yeah. So now that you're in launch time, can you talk about, like, has it felt easier? Did you pre-sell seats? Like, give us a little background on how your current launch is going.
Yeah, one of the things that sold me on PPP before I even joined was somebody's testimonial that they would go back to PPP, go back to the program, go back to the. I think at the time I didn't even know what they were going back to aside from the program, and now I understand. I think it's probably the program and the work that you do inside of it. I reference that all the time. In fact, I just referenced it for my email that I just sent out. One of the things we do inside the program is collect this data, right? Collect this market research, collect people's exact words, and categorize them and organize them. I was going back to that spreadsheet over and over and over again, because it's a wealth of richness
It
that I could
is.
draw from. It's like a well. The pre-launch plan itself that we create in the program was something that I obviously like referenced over and over during pre-launch. I feel like we could probably have this conversation again after my next launch. This one, as we were chatting about earlier, was a little bit less perfectly organized, and yet compared to my previous one, it's you can't really compare. yeah, I told you, I made my first investment back in the first sale before cart opened. And I you can't really beat that, right? It's the idea that I have so much more confidence in what I was doing, in what I'm doing now. I have so much more confidence in what I'm doing, both in my messaging during pre-launch, that carries over to launch, that carries over to all my other content from the work that we did in the pre-launch plan program. And I think that it's almost equally as important to have the messaging down than it was for me to learn about the importance of that relationship in that space that we created before launch.
Yeah. No, I think that's, I'm so glad. I'm so happy to hear. And from our conversation too previously, that cart hasn't closed yet, but you've already hit your goal for
Yeah,
this
I
launch.
just
And
exceeded it actually.
did you?
Yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah. So the fact that you've exceeded your goal for this launch, and it was, a little bit of a lazier launch, I think, than you, not than before, but then it was a bit of a lazy launch. It's
Yeah.
not a question, it's a statement. So I'm just so thrilled. And if someone is contemplating, like, okay, I'm nervous. Like, I think there's a lot of nervousness in the market right now. Like, I'm nervous about investing,
Mm.
into another program. What would you say?
I would say I was really nervous too, right? I'm like the perfect case study for somebody who was like, oh man, is this going to be worth it? Oh man, is this going to be another big investment that's not going to pay off? Oh man, is this person, you, Brenna, are you really going to care about my journey within the program? Am I going to get lost in the shuffle here? Am I going to try to ask a question and get like half a response and next, Um, talk to me or listen to our conversation. I think you've got a gem of a human being, which is you. You've got a fantastic program. You've got a program that has very real ROI. And I think it's a program that's based very much on human relationship, which I'm all about that. I think the more that we can be human in our sales process and in our business, that is what's going to win. There's more and more people selling things online every single day. And if you're looking at your customers as mere leads, as mere, prospects that you have to push through a funnel, like, good luck. I mean, I think some people are still making money with that for sure, but that's not the way to win long term. And people are getting so much more skeptical and so much more sick of these tactics. The way to move forward is to show up as a human, to open up the conversation, to be available for those long Voxer back and forths before a purchase, to be able to like show empathy to somebody like I was, who was burned and who needed that extra reassurance. You're in good hands with Brenna for sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And then for anyone who is interested in a brand video and wants to come find you, where can people locate you at?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really easily to find let me do that one again. I'm really easy to I'm really easy to find on Instagram. I'm at Brand Magnetic, and I've got a bunch of cool free stuff on brandmagnetic.com if you're interested in learning how to tell your brand story.
Yes, go find Mariana. And thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brenna. Such a joy.